This week on the podcast, is it worth it? We ask if the key resources you could be using in your business are worth it or not. Welcome to the Profit Cash Growth Podcast. This is the podcast for 6 and 7 figure business owners who are looking to grow a financially successful business. My co-host Claire Hancock is a finance director, chartered accountant and entrepreneur. And every week I'll be exploring guidance and frameworks designed to help you increase your profits, improve your cash flow and grow your business. Well, Claire, it'd be ideal if we didn't start a podcast with a level of rage and anger towards our government, but we've had a blowout, haven't we?
Oh, we have. And do you know what? I feel really bad. And Simon has been quite good to me, actually, because Simon very much wanted to drive home from the gym. I insisted that I was going to drive and then proceeded only a few minutes later to hit a pothole and get a flat tyre.
Yeah, completely took the tyre out. So much so that we're carless for a day because it's now
in the garage
down there. Needs a new tyre, not available till tomorrow.
It's so bloody frustrating. We live in what can only be described as pothole central. Now, I know most of our listeners are probably thinking, yeah, everyone's got potholes. But oh my God, our road is like a rally track, isn't it? It is absolutely insane.
Yes, as many are up and down the UK, I think, at the moment. It's just crazy. But yes, so if you can hear tones of anger in our voice, that's why we're annoyed at the taxes we pay and the road tax we pay to slalom down our road, nearly causing accidents, trying to avoid potholes. But I don't want to join the rest of the country in this pothole anger.
On the plus side, our local garage, Jackson Phillips, is fantastic. A bloody phenomenal local garage. So more than happy to support a small local business. I'm not sure if that's any consolation in taking our hard-earned cash out of our pocket, but at least it's going into the hands of a local small business.
Anyway, from potholes to a large supermarket, let's hear about the news. So this week, Claire, you've got a news story that you picked out, quite a niche one, I felt, but let's see your angle on this one.
Well, I didn't think this was quite niche at all, actually. I spotted that Morrisons have done a deal with one of the media giants, and they are going to introduce advertising on their trolleys. And also, they're going to start putting digital screens around the supermarket, particularly in the cafe area and in the petrol stations where they're going to be advertising certain brands. And I thought this was quite interesting because the supermarkets do get quite a lot of heavy criticism for being these behemoths that sort of sap everybody's money. But actually, the reality is it's incredibly difficult for supermarkets to make money. Yes, the likes of Tesco do make millions, billions a year, but the actual profits are like in the really, really low percentages.
Wafer thin. Like wafer thin. I mean, these guys like blink and they're in and out of profitability. It's unbelievable. A bit like airlines, but they're in an incredibly competitive part of the market, and I know that they squeeze suppliers, but ultimately the consumer is the one that's dictating to them that they want low prices for their groceries, and I think that drives that difficult position. So they're always looking for ancillary revenues, aren't they, I guess?
Yeah, and I found this really interesting when I read it, I just kind of thought this is so obvious to put just a plastic sticker on your website and charge the big brands like McVitie's and people like that for being on there. And I thought, why do other supermarkets not do this as well? Because it seems like such an obvious advertising slot. Not only are people walking around the supermarket for probably like 30, 45 minutes when they do their shop, but then the trolleys also stack up in the car park and everyone driving or walking past sees them. So yeah, I just thought it was a really clever move from Morrisons to bring in a slightly different revenue stream and help protect its bottom line a little bit, because there's probably no cost to Morrisons for doing this.
Now, I might be wrong, but I don't feel like that this idea is a new one. I feel like I've seen advertising on trolleys before. It may be just cyclical, that it's driven by, when advertising revenues are available and how far you can stretch these different avenues that you can charge people for it. And I guess there's quite a large logistical element to it. It's not like changing one large billboard in your car park, is it? If you've got to change every trolley every time a campaign changes. So actually there's probably quite a bit of cost to it.
Yeah, that probably is true. But I imagine they're just going to be like these clip-on frames that you then just slide these posters in and out of. I mean, I can remember from my days working at Bosch Home Appliances, and the money that we would pay to be on like the end of an aisle, for example, particularly with some of the home appliances like kettles, toasters, that sort of thing, we would pay an absolute fortune to be on the end of an aisle. Yeah. So to be on the end of a trolley, forefront in your customer's mind, I think it's a really smart move from Morrisons.
So here we go then. One for you. If you were a business, Claire, would you rather be on the pump of the petrol station pump, or would you rather be on the trolley if you had to choose one for your business?
I would say probably the trolley, because we probably fill up our car once a week and we go to the supermarket once a week. So that filling up process probably lasts about 2 minutes, and my hand covers most of the pump and I don't pay any attention to it. Whereas in the supermarket, I'm there for 45 minutes. So I'm guessing by process of elimination, I'm more likely to take in that trolley advertising than the pump advertising.
Yes, you can see that you're the finance person and I'm the marketing and sales person, can't you? Because I would 100% say the pump. The reason is the pump is a highly captive audience. Once you're in a petrol station garage, you are not allowed to use your mobile phone. And this comes very much from the days when I used to put advertising onto airlines when people are in a capsule in the most captive environment possible. You stand there for the few minutes that it takes to fill up your car, and you're trying to take in anything. There's not a lot to take in, but the image that's on the pump that says what that brand is, with the supermarket trolley bouncing around the supermarket with all the other bright colours and other brands that are fighting for your attention, I think the focus of the pump would be the one for me on that one. But
maybe I'm normally watching the pump go up and thinking how annoyed I am that petrol prices are so expensive. So
yeah, I don't look at prices, I don't.
I'm not, but. And then my second favourite thing to do when I'm in the petrol station is to watch what the queue's like and see how good the customer service and things like that, how good the business is functioning. I just love watching how other businesses work. So yeah, okay. I am definitely not paying attention to any advertising on the pump, that's for sure.
Well, from one riveting topic to another, let's move on to this week's deep dive. So in this week's deep dive, we're asking, is it worth it? Or is it not worth it? The business tools that you should or perhaps shouldn't be using in your business. And we've got a short list, and no doubt we'll go through more of these in future, but we've got a list of a handful of things that we want to talk about that you could or couldn't have in your business, and whether you would get the true value out of the cost of them or not. And we're going to start with number one, aren't we, Claire? So, which is, we're going to start with a bookkeeper. So what's the value of a bookkeeper, Claire? Would you have a bookkeeper in your business, and at what stage would you have that? And how much value do you get from a bookkeeper?
Yeah, so what a bookkeeper does is a bookkeeper's logging all of your day-to-day expenses, so like your receipts, your purchase invoices. They'll also raise your sales invoices for you in your system. So they're just logging all of the transactions that you've got onto your accounting system. And then normally, if you've got a bookkeeper that is a bit more experienced, they can typically do your year end and do your tax returns too. Otherwise, they'll get all of the information ready and pass it over to your accountant. And it's something that quite a lot of business owners have, probably historically, they would outsource their bookkeeping. You know, you would take your papers down to your local accountancy practice back in the day. You know, when I started in the accountancy world, we used to have lots of business owners bring in like shoe boxes full of all their receipts, and that was quite typical. But now that there are lots of systems available online, seemingly being marketed more towards business owners, people say to me, well, I could just do my bookkeeping myself. And for me, I would say that absolutely is true, but I would put bookkeeping along with any other admin task, and I would say, no, you should be outsourcing it, and you should absolutely be buying back your time and paying a bookkeeper that probably is earning somewhere between £15 to £25 per hour, depending on their experience, to do what is an admin task.
I think everybody the consensus would agree with that generally speaking, the first hire that you should make in your business is that bookkeeper / maybe admin, you could say more broadly, but certainly you shouldn't be sitting there doing that task when you could be utilising your time much more effectively in the sales and marketing of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And most bookkeepers will cost, for a typical business, you're going to be paying probably, for businesses, maybe our audience size of sort of multi 6-figure, 7-figure businesses, you're going to be paying probably about £300 to £700 a month, depending on the complexities of your business. If you're a service-based organisation, you're not going to be buying loads and loads, so you won't have as many invoices to post, so it's going to be a bit cheaper. If you're manufacturing or you've got stock, anything like that, you're going to be buying a lot, so you're going to have more invoices and your costs will be slightly higher. But yeah, I mean, I outsource my bookkeeping as well. It's not something that I want to waste my time doing, even though I'm an accountant. I don't want to waste my time doing bookkeeping because I can simply pay somebody to do that and put my time into leveraging that and making more money than I would be paying somebody. So. Sure.
And you can get some really, really competitive price bookkeepers out there, but the range is massive. And I know, for the similar business to me, I know people that pay up to £800 a month for their bookkeeper. Yeah. I know people that pay £150 a month for their bookkeeper. And I guess, it is the quality of what you get sometimes.
I also think as well, you just hit the nail on the head there, Simon, the quality. I mean, like we're talking about particularly for VAT registered businesses and businesses with payroll and things like that, the complexity is like, small business owners, the reality is you've got no idea about VAT legislation. You've got no idea about tax legislation. You've got no idea, if I was to say something like, do you know which expenses are disallowed and allowable? And do you know which expenses need to go on a P11D and which expenses are subject to different tax returns and things like that? There's all of these technical things that bookkeepers are actually trained in to recognise, make sure that we're compliant. Therefore, I think that when you pay a bookkeeper, you get that peace of mind as well to know that you're not falling foul of any of the tax laws or anything like that.
And it's a waste of your time, training and learning and educating that side of stuff. It's never going to bring any value to your business on that side whatsoever. You can just buy it in. It's readily available in the market. It's not difficult to find. So I think we're saying bookkeeper, worth it.
Absolutely.
So second on our list, and this is often a controversial topic because it's like the Wild West, you get good, bad and indifferent, and that is a marketing agency. So this is the companies that you can outsource some, all, or a complete outsource model of your marketing. So we're talking social media, we're talking Google pay-per-click, we're talking somebody that can take full control of that and advise you on that. What do you say, Claire, on this one?
I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I've outsourced bits of my sales and marketing previously. We've done paid for ads. I've had a copywriter. I've had people do my website. I've had somebody dabble with my social media. And I'm not going to lie, I've never been wowed. I think an element of that is perhaps maybe I didn't put the right amount of effort and research into finding the right person or business to do it. So probably I have to take a bit of responsibility for that myself. But I'm intrigued to know what Simon thinks about this one, because I am just about to spend quite a hefty amount of money actually on a sales and marketing company to pretty much outsource everything to do with my marketing, lead generation and everything like that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to hear Simon's take on this.
Yeah, I think marketing agencies have just absolutely exploded over the last 5 to 8 years. It's very, very low barrier to entry for somebody to set up a marketing agency. So what you get is you get these offshoots of people that have worked in larger marketing agencies who have spun off on their own quite easily and quickly and start to pick up things. The areas that you need to be really, really careful of, in my view, with marketing agencies is generalists in this market. So they're people that say they can do everything in marketing for you. So they can do your Facebook, they can do your pay-per-click, they can do your emails, but actually they can probably do none of it to a very high standard, and they're not an expert in any area of that. And some of these areas, especially as you enter into places like Google pay-per-click, which can be eye-wateringly expensive. Again, 20 years ago when Google started, it was pence on the click. We're now well into the pounds, and the average business will probably be spending £1 to £3, but depending on how competitive that environment is, I have heard of businesses that pay upwards of £35 per click for their business in that particular environment. So absolutely making sure that someone's got your back in that and understands that is, I think, going to be invaluable.
So a business like my, Simon, that's about to embark on outsourcing my lead generation. So I'm going to have a company that will be doing basically cold outreach for me, generating leads and booking people onto the free business review that I've got. What tips would you give me? What do I need to look out for?
I think I would start with asking them for companies that they work for, and I would call those companies and I would ask those companies, effectively like you would when you're employing somebody. So referencing. So I would want to talk to, in the same way I would if I had a build around, I'd want to talk to somebody that's built that extension on that house. I'd want to talk to a company that has worked with them and can tell you actively how they go. If they're a good company, there'll be absolutely no reason why they won't be able to provide you with some raving fans of theirs.
That's a really good tip, actually. And do you know what? That's why I really like these podcasts. Although we live together and although you know that I'm doing this, we haven't actually discussed that. So yeah, thanks, Simon. I'm definitely going to do that.
Yep, it's a good tip for me. So marketing agencies, how do we wrap this one up? It is a big one. I would say that if you need to be cautious with them. I think they are areas that are incredibly complicated and difficult, especially if you get into the Meta world and the Google world. So I think they can unlock value for you. I think what you'll find is that I would always start small and grow with that organization, and I would keep that organization on its toes. My experience tells me that once you've been with an organization for more than a year, that they deprioritize you. It's time to move on. It's time to move to another agency. So I would not be scared about moving around and taking your campaign with you. Once your campaign is really optimized with Google and these people, that whoever's managing that, it won't start the campaign from scratch again.
That's a good tip. Well, I'm a bit more on the fence with marketing agencies. I haven't had good results with them so far, but I'm going to put a lot more effort into the selection process on this. And I don't know, maybe we'll do a special podcast in a couple of months and I'll give you an update about how it's going.
I'm going to say, marketing agencies, are they worth it? Yes, in specialisms. So I do not have a marketing agency that does everything for me, but I do have one that specifically does pay-per-click because that's invaluable and difficult and complicated. And I do have one that also works with Google SEO. But with others like Facebook's a little bit easier and a little bit lower value, and I don't do that. So marketing agencies, we're going to say it depends. So next on our list is health insurance.
I am a massive fan of getting health insurance. I mean...
That's just because you've got bad teeth though, isn't it?
Well, no, I've got tremendous teeth now, actually.
Oh, you have now?
Veneers,
10 grand
I've
later.
had braces, I've had all sorts done to my teeth. They look stupendous. But yeah, I've had all sorts done. I've had my tonsils taken out. I've had my wisdom teeth taken out. I've had all sorts of physio appointments. Well, not really like...
You're sounding like a sick note. How many things have I had done to me?
I'm very healthy, but all of these like supplementary things that just when I visited the NHS, they would just, they almost laughed at me and they said, we can refer you, but you'll never ever get an appointment. So yeah, with the NHS on its knees, I'm a big fan for getting health insurance. And of course, it's always, well, I say always, in most cases, it's more tax efficient for your business to buy it because you're paying for it out of pre-tax income, whereas when you buy it as an individual, you can get it through like Vitality and Virgin and people like that, but you're always paying for it out of taxed income. So from that perspective, it's normally more tax beneficial for your business to buy it for you. Now, you doubled in this a little while ago, didn't you, Simon?
I completely agree with all the points you make. I think that the price of this stuff is so low or sensibly low value in your business. It's completely, tax write-offable in the business as a genuine expense. So therefore, the actual true value out of your pocket for what you get it's not, in my view, this is one where it's like, I wouldn't even quibble over it. This is 100% worth it. If you don't have your health, you don't have your business and you don't have your wealth.
Yeah, that's really true, actually. When you're a business owner, you can't afford to be ill. And it was things like when I had my wisdom teeth done, and it's like backwards and forwards for scans and pre-appointment checks. And at the time, it was like COVID checks and all sorts of things like that. And if I'd had to go to an NHS hospital and sit in the waiting room and wait because inevitably the doctor's behind and things like that, it would have been really difficult. But instead, I was able to go to a lovely private hospital over in St Albans, get an appointment in the evening at a convenient time for me. And yeah, it was just a really fantastic experience. And I can remember when I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and before you go into your operation, they even bring you like a menu and you get to like pick a 3-course meal, and like you've got a dedicated nurse so that like when you press the buzzer, the same person comes through every time and things like that. So yeah,
it's kind of like the equivalent of,
it's like a hotel.
Flying business class versus economy. Like you pay, 10 times more for it, but you get comfort, don't you? And you get predictability, consistency and all those type of things. So,
but I mean, I'm in my late 30s and health insurance to me is about £600 a year.
Yeah.
So with no previous like health conditions and things like that, it's actually not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. And I would say that I have more than got that time back, because particularly with my tonsils, I used to be ill at least once a month with like a bad throat. So I have more than got that £600 back and just been well enough to work all the time now.
Agree. Nothing more important than your health. So we're ticking that one. Is it worth it? Health insurance, 100%
Everyone should have it.
So next on our list, we have a PA/admin assistant, I guess. So
/VA. I'm just going to put that on there because I don't think it matters whether they're virtual or not.
It depends, because a virtual assistant can't get your laundry for you or buy your birthday card for your sister, or all these different things that buy back your time. So I don't necessarily agree with that, because it's two different things. I'm talking about opportunities here to really, really make sure that every minute of your time is spent in key result areas on income generating tasks. And that is my view of what good PA is all about.
Yeah, but you're a bit old school, Simon. I mean, like, seriously, when was the last time you took anything to the dry cleaners?
Well, it needs to be done though, doesn't it?
No, but you never take anything to the dry cleaners, and there are now dry cleaners that
I don't
will
mean
come
that, but
collect.
you're doing the laundry and the various other things, and I think, we shouldn't be doing that. I think, if we had a personal assistant, I think a personal assistant would be great value, because there is a long list of things where I would say we would gain 5 hours a week back with a personal assistant.
Well,
so I think these are I think it's a really
I think we're talking about two different things here, aren't we? Because when we
ask any decent business person, they will tell you this is their first hire, actually above a bookkeeper probably.
But I think that we're talking about two different things here, because when you say personal assistant or or VA, something like that. I think most people imagine somebody in their business helping them with business related tasks. But what you're saying
talking about personal.
Is like a personal person who
like
can
a
help.
maid.
If you're like particularly if you've got multiple businesses or lots of things going on. I think a maid is kind of a bit derogatory and perhaps not what you mean, but you're literally saying, imagine if you're like a celebrity, somebody that could help with every aspect of your life. So if it's booking a dinner reservation, arranging your dentist appointment,
100%,
but also
life admin,
managing your inbox,
everything.
Managing your times, that when people want to book your calendar and things like that, all of that can happen. So there's a little bit of crossover into business as well as your personal life, but more supporting you as a director and an entrepreneur.
100%. I think, there is just so much time wasted on things that just have to happen in life that I think, again, given that we all have that limited amount of time, we cannot buy more time. Technically, this is the only way we can buy more time, is by making sure that we are laser focused in the way we spend our time. I'm passionate about the time that and this isn't about working 24 hours a day. It's about saying, if I choose to devote 8-10 hours a day, whatever that is, to quote unquote work or growing a business or that side of thing or entrepreneurship that I'm working on, I want every minute of that to be in the most powerful place that I can spend that. And therefore, in order to do that, I think you have to have the rest of your life in order in some way, because it's difficult. There's only so much time, because I want to spend the other rest of my time, with my, loved ones and various other things like that. So
I do think there are some things that I would never outsource, though, like
mowing the lawn.
You've gone on and on at me about getting a gardener, but there is something so satisfying,
which is great. And again, if you get
trimming that lawn,
and that's what I mean. It's about the value of your time. And actually, do you know what? If you get genuine satisfaction from that particular job and that particular thing you do, because it gives you something else in your life, then 100% keep it. That is not what I'm saying at all. It's about not just doing things for the sake of doing it, because it just takes time up that could be used somewhere else. If we're true business people and entrepreneurs, which is what we are.
I think one of the things that puts a lot of people off getting this is that feeling a bit naked. I can remember when I've worked in businesses and I've had like a PA, having that person that literally has access to every single last thing leaves you feeling quite exposed and quite naked. I don't know.
I just get a completely different feeling from that. When in my previous roles where I've had somebody who's literally got everything, and I feel relaxed. I have just a totally different emotional feeling to it. I feel so relaxed. I just feel like everything is in hand. I mean, if that person's that good, but I've had people that are that good, then I just feel like everything's in hand, and I don't have to worry about it. All I have to do is make decisions, and a decision takes a fraction of a second versus the administration of doing it. So.
And we do have a little joke in our marriage, don't we? Like we do say that I am always the assistant and you are always the one in charge. So if we, like buy flat pack furniture or something, I'm the one that's like laying out all the screws and handing the screws to Simon at the exact right time for him to just swan in and drill everything in and make it look like he's done the finished job.
That's just an experience thing. It's just I know how to use a screwdriver. I've used it a few more times. So it's just using each other's knowledge, isn't it? Anyway.
But I think you can get
yes,
a PA. No. I don't think you necessarily need...
You don't want a PA?
No, hang on a second. I don't think you necessarily need somebody in person. I think you absolutely can get a virtual assistant, because I would suggest that probably like 95% of your tasks are, take out household chores that cleaners can do. I think most of them are online tasks. So PA, VA, I would say you could probably get somebody to do enough hours for maybe like somewhere between £10,000 to £15,000 a year. And to me, that's not that much money at all. So... No.
Well,
in the grand scheme of things. So
totally disagree with you on that. With the virtual assistant, couldn't think of anything worse. I'm old school. I've got things that need to be done that are here. I would have part-time, 4 hours a day, physicality. They need to be there and available to do things. And I disagree. The whole world isn't digital. So there we go.
If anybody listening wants a job, you know where to find Simon.
No. Next is a company car, Claire. So company car. Oh. This is probably a good accountant question, isn't it? Because really it's all about, is it that big question? Is it better for me to put it through my business than it is to buy it? Because you're probably going to have a car anyway. I mean, is the question here, do you need a car? Because I don't think many people would run a business without a car, but maybe they would in the digital world. As you say, we don't go out or do anything physically anymore. We just do it all digitally, apparently. But you're going to need a car. So do you put it through the business? Is it worth it? Isn't it worth it?
Yeah.
How would you weigh this up?
I really hate giving this answer, but I'm going to say it depends. It depends on the vehicle. It depends on the CO2 emissions, how expensive your car is. Everything like that makes a difference, unfortunately, as to whether it's tax efficient for you to put the vehicle through your business or whether you should pay for it yourself and then claim mileage at the 45p per mile.
Yeah.
Actually, a general rule that you can apply, though, is that if you get an electric vehicle, it's better for you to put it through your business because the P11D is like 2% at the moment versus, if you've got a petrol or a diesel car, then you're paying sort of somewhere between 30 to 40% typically on a benefit in kind. Yeah. So
this is a good question because I didn't put my car through the business. Is that because the 45p a mile, which is a good way to extract income from the business in a tax efficient way as well, is that better than me putting it through? Could I not do that as well as having the car in there? How does it work?
Yeah, so if the business owns the car, then obviously you can't claim 45 pence per mile because that 45 pence per mile covers not only the fuel, there's actually an advisory fuel rate, which is normally 12 to 14 pence per mile is what the government say the cost of the fuel is. And the rest of the money is actually wear and tear on your car, insurance, MOT, tyres, all of that kind of thing. So if the business owns your car, you can't claim that 45 pence per mile. So there is an argument whether that 45 pence is high enough because I think that 45 pence was last set in, I'm going to say 2007. It was literally set like forever ago. Inflation's gone through the roof.
What, like what? Like income tax bans and VAT thresholds and whatever else. It seems like we set and forget everything and then just let everything inflate its way out. But,
But yeah, if your business owns your car and you use that car exclusively 100% only for business, then of course it makes sense for the business to pay for it. But the grey area comes in is that if you use that car for any personal mileage whatsoever, then it essentially becomes a benefit in kind. Yep. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing 1 mile or 100,000 miles for personal purposes, you're taxed the same on it. So that's where you do need to do the calculation to figure out what's the most
Is it worth it?
Well, as a blanket rule, we don't have our cars through the business and none of my clients have their cars through the business either.
Therefore, no, it's not worth it.
No, it's not. But if you have an electric car, it is.
Okay. And if you have actual company vehicles, obviously they go through the business, so vans and whatever else. Nice. And finally, the one we've got on here is a finance broker. Now, I don't even know what a finance broker is, Claire, so please enlighten us. And is this worth it?
Well, finance broker would be a bit similar to a mortgage broker. It's, if you wanted a business loan or asset finance, anything like that, an overdraft, a business credit card, do you go and source that yourself or do you go to a specialist person who will do the application for you and recommend the most appropriate product and things like that? And we have people that listen will know we probably have quite a big property portfolio and we have a broker that we use for absolutely everything. Yep. And I am a big fan of using brokers. Earlier on, when we got our first finance products, we would go, typically to the high street banks ourselves and source them. And I would say that the broker can almost always get us a more appropriate deal over the right amount of term for us. And normally they can get a better interest rate as well.
Well, I would add to that, just bringing the mortgage thing, and I'm sure it's the same with the finance element. It's not just about getting the right rate, but it's actually about having somebody in your team that can actually unlock finance that grows your business. Now, our mortgage broker has simply been able to unlock finance for us to be able to invest in property or business in a way that I couldn't have done.
Yeah,
I simply couldn't have done. I wouldn't have had the knowledge.
Got the high street banks, and I think that's the thing is if you're a small business and you're looking for a loan of up to about 25k, you can pretty much do an application online and
stick on a credit card for 25k.
Or get something approved. Actually, a lot of the time, same day online. It's a big tick box exercise. When you go over that 25k mark, and or you've already got finance in your business, so you're already leveraged a little bit, then it becomes a bit more risky, a bit more specialist. And, every single finance institution, whether it's a bank or a high street lender, whatever it is that you're going for, especially some of the specialist lenders, they're so specific on their criteria that if you just don't meet one of their criteria, and the criteria could simply be where your postcode is, it really isn't anything to do with the viability and your ability to repay that loan. But the broker will know that knowledge, will know what you're most likely to get approved for. And normally they can get the same, if not better rates than what the banks, etc., are advertising directly on their websites.
Totally agree. And final point to add to this for me is also just going back to time, you know that I'm an absolute advocate of my time. Well, again, the administration and what's involved as you get bigger and get more complicated with your financial affairs that a broker will do for you, for me, again, is just worth that fee or whatever they're charging for that, in terms of just keeping your time laser focused on things that make you the next amount of money.
And we know the mortgage industry, the finance industry, probably inside out between the two of us. And we have a finance broker and a mortgage broker. So I can't recommend enough. Get a good finance broker and they'll pay for themselves in the long run.
Don't forget as well, there's the ancillary levels of interest as well that happens. So you've got things like the fact that you just learn and educate yourself by putting yourself around these people. So, after 10 years of working with that mortgage broker, I know more about the industry, about how to unlock deals than I would have ever known before. So just absorbing all of that knowledge as well has been absolutely massive. So
the caveat I would give is there are lots of brokers out there that, particularly the smaller people, that will only work with like a handful of lenders. And there actually aren't that many brokers out there that will work with the entire market. They tend to be, if you think about like the comparison websites and stuff like that, they pretty much have access to the vast majority of the market, but they're not going to get preferential rates and they're not going to give you that recommendation of, I think that this is the best route to go for you.
Sure.
So just bear that in mind when you're picking your broker. Generally find a broker that works quite closely with your industry. I'd say that's the most important thing, because the lenders, for example, particularly when you're talking about more specialist lenders, take HSBC, Barclays, Lloyds, take all of those out of it, you're left with your really specialist ones like Aldermore and Hitachi and Land Bay and Paragon and all of these kind of names that are not probably widely known unless you've got commercial lending. And they will prefer certain industries and certain business sizes and certain loan sizes, and so you really need to find the right broker for your business.
So finance broker, is it worth it?
100%.
100%. I'm in agreement. Well, thanks for joining us for this week's deep dive. An interesting roundup of is it worth it? And we will no doubt do more of this in the future. So I hope you took some great value from that. And let's move on to this week's Profit Cash Growth Extra. So on this week's Profit Cash Growth Extra, I want to recommend a TV series on Netflix that I've just watched. We've just watched actually. And absolutely superb. Now, I'm a big fan. Obviously, I'm into business. I'm into entrepreneurship. So I'm a big fan of the stories of the great entrepreneurs and the great businesses that have come up, and whether that's a cinema film or a documentary. And the latest one on Netflix is The Playlist, which is the story of Spotify. And just for a change, the way that this was filmed and sort of set was a little bit different. I basically took each of the different functions within the growth of Spotify, from the initial entrepreneur through to one of the key artists through to the investor, and each episode was based on following the journey of that individual, almost overlapping in lots of ways. Did you enjoy, Claire?
Do you know what? When you first put this on, it's actually in Swedish, and then it's like dubbed over, UK over or English over the top of it. And whenever you watch like a Netflix season or something like that, initially it's a little bit jarring, but then you very quickly settle into it, and it wasn't too bad, because actually they visit America a lot, and then they are speaking in English, so it wasn't too bad. I particularly really like the messaging behind this story, because I think there's like 6 or 7 episodes, isn't there? And like Simon says, it follows a different person at each point of the story. And I thought this was a really powerful message, that there is not one individual that makes a successful business. And critically for this business, they literally handpicked every single person that was pivotal to the success. And I think that's a really important thing that small business owners overlook when they recruit people, because they tend to recruit what they can afford. And I personally think you should always recruit the most expensive person that you can possibly afford to pay.
And that is exactly what
they did.
The success of Spotify shows. They actually went out and they tried to handpick key people that would unlock the next part of their journey.
And they weren't worried about the price. And that sounds like a luxurious position.
It's easy because they had the money.
They decided on the skill set and the person, and then they figured out how they were going to afford that.
Awesome. So go and check it out. It's The Playlist. It's on Netflix. It's absolutely fantastic. So thanks for joining us again for another podcast, Profit Cash Growth. As always, if you would like to engage with Claire or her team, you can pop yourself over to the Profit Cash Growth website, profitcashgrowth.com. Take a look at the YouTube channel for more educational information.
And we'd really like to ask just one small favour from all of our listeners. If you're enjoying this podcast, please hit the like button, hit the follow or the subscribe, and tell us what you do enjoy about it. And please just share it with one person. We make this podcast for free at our own time and cost. So we really appreciate getting some feedback from you and spreading the word.
Every one person tells one person, the listenership doubles every week, and we're all happy. And we'll see you again next week.